Can I please get a roll call?
Yes, you may. I'm going to start in reverse order so we don't start with the newbie. Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Bauer?
Present.
Commissioner Krazan?
Present.
Vice Chair Abelman?
Here.
Commissioner Collar?
Here.
Commissioner Falk?
Here.
And Commissioner Warwick?
Here.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Everyone's here. We have a quorum.
Welcome. Okay, can I get Commissioner Carlson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Nice.
All rise. Let's place the flag. Place your hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, approve the order of agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, blue folder items. Are there any blue folder items?
We do have one blue folder item. It was public correspondence from Mark Hansen via email. I sent that to each of your emails prior to the meeting. We will have an additional blue folder item that'll go out tomorrow. It'll be the PowerPoint that you see for the boat launch project both are from L2, the boat launch project.
Do we have to have a motion to receive that?
I think receive and file, yeah.
Receive values?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? Passes. Okay. Item F, consent calendar. Moving to F1, approval of affidavit of posting for the Harbor Commission meeting October 13th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
Or you just do both at the same time?
Do both, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And then
ask if anybody wants to pull anything, and then
we'll say that again.
ask if anybody wants to pull a consent item.
Does anybody want to pull it? Does anybody do what he just said? It's so much easier that. It's efficient trying to get it. Okay. So is that a no?
Okay, motion to approve the consent calendar.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. All right, scrolling down. Item H, there's public participation on non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with an opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. I'm not sure if people are on. Is anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised in Zoom, no e-comments.
Okay, how many people are on Zoom?
There's one participant in Zoom,
okay.
but her hand's not raised.
Okay. Members of the, vast members of the audience. Anybody care to speak? Oh, okay, moving on. That was there. Ex parte communication. Any of you?
We have no public hearing, so.
Yeah, only applies to public hearing
Oh,
items,
that's
which
fine.
is the next item, and we don't have any of those.
Right
So
on.
you can go down to K, which we don't have anything from the previous agenda. They got pushed
Sure.
over to this agenda, so we could skip that one. So really,
L.
it's L.
Items for discussion prior to action. We'll start off with L1, Harbor Commission nominations and election of chairperson and vice chair. I encourage you all to choose your votes wisely. Okay, Greg, do we just,
This is completely up to you guys. There's no rhyme or reason. Historically, the vice chair, which is Commissioner Abelman, would nominate himself and become the chair.
a little arrogant nominating myself?
Yeah, that's good.
And then the real discussion is, well, who wants to be the vice chair for this year and essentially be the chair in the absence of Chair Abelman, if that were the case.
Okay. I can't nominate myself. People can't do it. All right, I'll nominate myself to be chair.
Wow. I second that.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody want to go against me? No? Okay. I sling mud, I'll tell you that. No, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Celebratory speech, I think is in order.
That was it. Now, under the vice chair.
Who's next in the rotation?
So, interestingly enough, this side of the table is the most recent chair, vice chair. Really, it would fall to either Lisa or Lee, depending on your comfort level. In terms of if we were taking turns, we don't have to follow taking turns,
Hierarchically,
but
it would be Lisa, just because you were here before.
yeah.
But if
If you
you,
want to jump the line, it's fine with me.
I'm willing to jump the line if nobody objects.
Let him jump the line.
I think he could jump right now and come in. Okay.
I nominate Lee Collier to be the vice chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, congratulations. You
Yeah.
have big shoes to fill, sir.
Can we have a little speech about your leadership style? And
Yeah, okay, cool. So moving on. Sweaty. All right. Item L2, discussion and possible action on a recommendation to the city council to authorize the staff to apply for a grant from the California Division of Boating and Waterways to fund a new public boat launch and to identify a recommended preferred location for the new public boat launch on Mole D as a part of the grant application submittal.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually going to pass this over to Dave Shirobi. He's been the project manager on this one. He's going to walk you through a presentation and introduce you to everyone that's here. So, Dave, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you, Harbor Commission. My name is Dave Shirobi, City of Redondo Beach. I'm going to fill you guys in a little bit about this project, give you some history, give you a summary of the recent workshop that we just held on it, and what our next steps are on it forward. So if you'll bear with me, for a little bit of background, this project is planned to be funded by DBAW, which is the Division of Boating and Waterways. Now, DBAW will pay for the construction and permitting process for this boat launch 100%. But first, the city needs to complete some responsibilities, which is why I'm here before you tonight. So we are seeking Harbor Commission's input to move forward with the application for the DBAW grant in February of 2026. And that will be for the 2026-2027 funding round. Now, this annual grant put out by DBAW is, for us to move forward with our application, we need two things essentially. One is a resolution from City Council authorizing us to apply for the grant to ensure that the application is in alignment with City Council's vision. And the second thing we need is to identify a preferred location for the boat launch. Now, in 2022, City Council approved the amenities plan, which called for staff to begin the process of constructing this boat launch on Mole D. Now, Mole D is fairly large, and in working with our contractor, Moffitt & Nichol, as well as past experience working with the local community, we narrowed down a few options. So today, we're going to seek Harbor Commission's input on those options so that we can move forward with taking that recommendation to City Council, secure that resolution to apply for the grant, and in our application include that preferred location. So to give you a little bit of project background here on our team, Moffitt & Nichol, we have Jerry Holcomb with us here tonight, who will be helping with any discussion questions that may come up. Moffitt & Nichol have a lot of experience successfully designing and constructing boat launches, including ones in the coastal zone, such as ours. They've also partnered with SWA, who have a long history working with the city as well, both on this boat launch project, but also the public amenities plan as well, where they gathered extensive public feedback that has been vital to the path forward that we're moving through this grant application. Moffitt & Nichol also has a lot of experience working here in King Harbor on various projects. They've completed 12 successful projects here that I'm aware of, maybe a few others that I'm not aware of. And their team lead, as I mentioned, Jerry, is here as well too. He's a local boater. He understands the unique waterfront area that we have and that we cherish, and that we want to preserve as well too. So he understands this harbor. So in selecting a preferred location, there are a number of factors that staff and Moffitt & Nichol needed to consider. Location can be dependent on wave and storm surge conditions, traffic and parking impacts, impacts on surrounding businesses, environmental impact, water navigation, and as well as DBAW and Coastal Commission requirements for permitting and for applying for this grant. One key thing to consider too is that we must adhere to these requirements to secure that necessary grant money and the permits that are required to construct this boat launch. Now, to give you guys a bit of history here, since 1959, Redondo Beach has considered nearly 20 locations for constructing a public boat launch. Extensive research in the past has focused on moles A, B, C, and D. Mole A was found to have issues with storm surges overtopping the break wall, as well as conflict with the existing yacht club and concerns about boat traffic. Mole B was found to be far too small to accommodate the necessary turnaround space and parking for the boat launch. There were also boat traffic concerns and conflicts with the existing Lanakeela Club, Harbor Patrol facility, and the traffic extending into the main channel there. Mole C was considered and found to have similar issues with concerns about boat trailers backing up and blocking Portofino Way, as well as concerns with wave attenuation. And Mole C also is the location of the future Waterfront Education Center. So that leaves us with Mole D, which a boat launch working group was launched as part of that amenities plan, and ultimately landed on Mole D as it had the most available space, the least traffic and parking concerns. And because Mole D is the largest mole, it really gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of what kind of boat launch we can design. And that makes it really the best location out of all the locations in the harbor. Now, keep in mind as well, too, that not only do we have to adhere to DBAW standards and Coastal Commission requirements, but we also have here in Redondo Beach Measure C, which places some additional constraints upon the boat launch. It requires minimum 30 trailer spaces per lane. In this case, it would be 60 if we had a 2-lane boat launch, because that's what's required through Measure C. It also requires it be located a safe distance from the hand launch. It requires no net loss of slips. It must operate in normal surge conditions. It must avoid areas where waves overtop the break wall. It must be designed to accommodate street legal trailerable boats. And the launch must meet all standard DBAW guidelines. By the way, Moffitt & Nickel helped coordinate with DBAW on creating those guidelines. One of the reasons why we picked them for this project. So project goals, how we can build the boat launch. Things that we need to consider is how can we build a boat launch that is both a permittable structure, but also adheres to the needs of the local community? How do we foster a cohesive waterfront experience that benefits boaters, but also visitors to the waterfront who are out for a walk or want to patronize and enjoy the many local restaurants and businesses that we have there? And that's really why we're here, to get that type of feedback. So throughout the public amenities plan that I talked about earlier, SWA spent about a year gathering feedback. They held multiple public outreach meetings. They conducted online surveys. They had pop-up events across the city where they solicited feedback from local residents on what features for the public boat launch people wanted to see. Now, for this project, SWA is building upon those years' worth of public outreach that they conducted. And that goes all the way back to the amenities plan, as I mentioned, but we also got a little bit of extra feedback as well, too, from our workshop. So again, as we continue to move forward, we are incorporating all this feedback into the design. But we're also not really here to talk about that tonight so much as we're here to talk to you guys about the location and the grant. So Mole D goes all the way from the International Boardwalk all the way up to Seaside Lagoon. You can see that illustrated here through that blue arrow. The blue line indicates the existing path of the pedestrian promenade. And keep in mind that this is a plan that a promenade that the amenities plan calls on to be further improved and expanded in the future. So we really wanted to select a boat launch location that integrates as seamlessly as possible with that future promenade. You'll see here the area labeled A is the section of the waterfront promenade that was identified in that amenities plan. And just an example of kind of what it looks like and that look that we really are looking to preserve. The area labeled B is the existing drive aisle for vehicles to enter and exit the mall. The area labeled C, that's the existing boat hoist. This structure will be decommissioned in the future with the installation of the boat launch. And then we have area labeled D, which is the existing marina slip tenant restroom. Now keep in mind, DBAW will pay to replace this structure with new restrooms that are both ADA compliant, have a shower, and are usable by liveaboards in Basin 3. Now here on the screen, I have a map that shows some of the coastal condition analysis that was conducted by Moffett and Nickel on the existing mole in the Moldy area. Now these studies are available in your packet of information, and they identified which sections of Moldy are most exposed to storm surges and adverse wave conditions. So as you can look here on the screen, you can see in the upper right there, they've got a picture of kind of what the buoys look like. So Moffett and Nickel set out a series of buoys that were used to measure these waves during storm conditions, during off-season conditions, various different conditions existing in the harbor they measured. And you can see there on the bottom right, they pinpointed certain areas where we had key storms last year, this year, and what that wave attenuation looked like and how it impacted the harbor. And then you can see there at that image on the left, there's a little heat map that was created. The red areas, as well as the green and yellow areas, indicate sections of our harbor that were most impacted by wave attenuation in surge conditions. So you'll notice that if you look there, you can see waves were most intense up near where the hand launch is and where Seaside Lagoon is in that area, but also along the western side of Moldy as well saw significant wave impacts. And then you can also see the blue areas as well. Those were the areas that were most sheltered from storm surges and wave attenuation. These are the areas that would require the least amount of protection from those conditions for a potential boat launch. And as we continue through this, you'll see how this data here helped inform us of what different locations we wanted to consider for building this boat launch. Now, Moffett and Nickel also conducted, as part of their studies, a boat launch usage demand study. So what this essentially did was, it's a study that is required for DBA's grant application, and it looked at what are the closest boat launches that currently exist in the area, and if we build one here in King Harbor, how many people will use it? And the main results that came from the study are that, yes, there is demand. People would use a boat launch in Redondo Beach, and that 2 launch lanes are appropriate for this launch. And that those 2 launches would require 60 parking spaces. You'll notice that this also complies with Measure C and the requirements that places on the boat launch. So those are in alignment with DBA's requirements, with the demand study requirements, and Measure C. Moffett and Nickel also conducted a parking and traffic circulation study. So they studied 6 of the closest intersections and concluded that the level of service would be acceptable with the addition of this boat launch. Keep in mind, Mole D is the largest mole that we have here in the harbor, and the parking study determined that approximately 60 parking spaces that are required to keep this boat launch in compliance with the demand study and Measure C, that the existing site, which has 719 parking stalls, would still provide enough parking spaces after the construction of this boat launch to accommodate all of the existing uses from the existing structures as well as the boat launch. And that would have leftover 525 stalls. So obviously we would lose some to parking, we would lose some to traffic and circulation, but overall we would still have an excess of parking for the requirements and the structures existing down there. Now I want to start getting into the options that were shown at the workshop on September 23rd. So the very first option I want to show you guys is what we've dubbed as option A. Option A positions the boat launch the furthest south along the mole there. And option A has the shortest ramp length because if you recall from that wave attenuation map that I showed you, that heat map, this option is the furthest into that blue area, which means this location is the most protected from waves and storm surges. This option also provides the most similar traffic circulation to the existing boat hoist that is currently there because they're kind of similarly positioned. So there would be much less disruption to current parking and circulation, and there would be less wave attenuation that would have to be mitigated. However, this location has some main disadvantages, and the big one, and one that we saw the most from the public and from attendees at the workshop, was that this location has the narrowest section of the channel width for the launching of vessels. So to meet DBAW standards for the grant, the boat launch must provide 50 feet of launch space going from the toe of the ramp out to the channel. Plus, in addition to that, 30 feet of space would be needed for each direction of boat traffic, both entering and exiting Basin 3. So if you do the math there, you need about 110 feet of space. this option would provide 130 feet of space. So option A does meet DBA's minimum requirements and does work in terms of providing that space for the launching of vessels and boat traffic into Basin 3. However, this option provides that the least amount of space compared to the other options that I'm about to show you. So that said, this option does also have the advantages that Moffitt Nickel feels that it would have the least regulatory hurdles to jump over, would be the most likely to receive permits, and probably would be the lowest cost as well too, which is another thing that we need to consider whenever we're submitting that application. So without further ado, that brings us to option B. Now, upon soliciting feedback from the public, we heard from the community that there were some concerns with that narrow channel space that is featured with option A. So we worked with Moffitt & Nickel to come up with option B, which provides more navigable space, but at the cost of the launch having a bit more of an impact on the surrounding community, somewhat more wave exposure, and a little more of an impact on the environment. But option B works. It provides an extra 40 feet of navigable space for watercraft, more than option A. And it allows for a total of 170 space there in that channel in Basin 3. Now, of course, with the trade-offs, there's some drawbacks too. It is expected to have a higher cost than option A, but again, this location does work. Now, Moffitt & Nickel considered a number of locations along the western side of Mole D, and each of them had some drawbacks. You can see in the staff report packet an example of all the different locations that they considered along the western side of Mole D. But the main one that I want to show you is the one that was shown to the workshop, which is option C, as we've dubbed it. Now, all of the options along the western side of Mole D do face issues with wave attenuation. If you will recall back to that heat map that I showed you guys, this is the side of the mole that is most impacted by storm surges and wave attenuation. Now, one of the benefits to option C is that it potentially provides the most navigable space for vessels that are launching and has the least impact on vessels that are navigating into and out of Basin 3 and the rest of the harbor, because it's kind of tucked away. However, option C does still have some more drawbacks. It would require the construction of a sheet pile wall to protect from wave attenuation. And this would be a longer and higher position boat ramp as well. And again, this is to shield both the ramp that's launching vessels as well as Mole D as a whole from storm surges and uprush that accompanies those surges. Now, this option is the closest to the entrance on Harbor Drive. So this option would be the easiest for trailerable vessels to actually locate the boat ramp when they come in. Of course, another drawback to that would be is that they have a little bit less space to maneuver their vehicles. There's less space for traffic and circulation. And that turnaround space would also come into direct conflict with that pedestrian promenade that we talked about earlier that City Council has approved as part of the amenities plan. So again, because of the sheet pile wall, the length of the ramp, the wave attenuation, option C would actually have the most impact on the ocean floor there in King Harbor. And because of that, Moffitt & Nickel believes that may make this not only the most expensive option, but also face the most regulatory and permitting hurdles because of that environmental impact and the mitigations that have to be taken for it. For those of you who don't know what a sheet pile wall is, I know I brought up that term a few times. This is an example of what one looks like. The sheet pile wall for option C will, again, protect that ramp and Mole D as a whole from storm surges, but it could pose an additional navigational obstacles, not just for vessels, but also for handcraft that are being launched from the hand launch. And again, we mentioned it could have a negative effect on the environment as well. Also, if you look here, at the diagram, the sheet pile wall will most likely need to be in an L shape. So you can see that blue area where the boat launches and has that dotted line that comes out indicating where that would be located. The L shape could potentially limit that navigable space for boats that are launching. So again, it would meet the minimum requirements for DBA. They'd have 50 feet of space to launch their boat, but then they'd likely have to make a hard turn in order to get out into the basin. So those are the three options that were shown at the community workshop. That was held on September 23rd over here at the library. And at that workshop, we solicited feedback from the public on these three locations. Now, the workshop was well attended. We received a lot of very valuable feedback from the public on these 3 locations that I just showed you, A, B, and C. Some of the feedback was also received that referred to a 4th location located kind of near R10 and the boat hoist. That suggestion was very similar to a past location that was considered and found to be unworkable, primarily because it required the removal of slips, which is, if you will recall, is prohibited by Measure C. So, Moffitt and Nickel did look at that and consider it. But again, it was found to be unworkable for that reason. But generally, the feedback at the workshop on the location options was split. So Moffitt and Nickel came up with an additional option that we have dubbed option E, which is a compromise. And we're going to go over that a little bit later here in the presentation. But first, I want to kind of show you, these are some of the main amenities that SWA received in terms of feedback from the public on the things that they want to see from a boat launch. So we showed these to the public again at the workshop to kind of explain, what their feedback was previously, how we're incorporating that into the design, and how that's going to affect the development of the boat launch going forward. Now, at the workshop, we had an interactive portion where attendees were able to provide their feedback directly to SWA. Again, I mentioned it was really well attended. We got feedback from a lot of attendees who indicated their relationship with King Harbor. Many of them were boaters, some of them were yacht club members, but there was also a significant number of business owners that were present as well, too. Now, most of the attendees indicated that they do visit the waterfront often, either daily or weekly. And the number one reason attendees gave for visiting the harbor was for recreational boating. However, I should mention that the second most popular reason was for dining or patronizing the local businesses that we have there, followed by the pedestrian and bike paths as well, too. So a lot of people like to visit the harbor, not just for boating, but also for, walking the harbor, visiting the great businesses that we have down there, and just enjoying the coastal scenery that we have available. Now, we also asked the attendees to let us know what was most important to them in seeing for a boat launch. And they rated it as following. The attendees overwhelmingly indicated that one of their top concerns was boater traffic safety, but close seconds were protection from waves for the boat launch and from the mole, and minimizing conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles as well, too. So safety was definitely number one priority, not just for boat traffic, from wave attenuation and from conflicts with pedestrians and the promenade. So of the attendees surveyed, 22 said that they either don't launch boats at all or were unlikely to use a boat launch, and 17 indicated they were either likely or very likely to use it. Now, we took 2 surveys from the attendees on which of the options that we showed them they preferred. One of these surveys took place before the Q&A session, and then another one was taken afterwards. So they had an opportunity to kind of ask some questions and then change their mind if they wanted to. These are up here. I have the results of the first survey. The first survey option, attendees indicated they favored option C, with option A coming in at a very close second. And then the second time we surveyed them after Q&A was a little bit different. Option C still remained in first place, but with option A and B tied for second place after the discussion. So given this discussion and this feedback that we got at the workshop, as well as some very valuable input that we received from our public boat launch working group as well too, from our subcommittee, from the harbor commissioners, we partnered with Moffitt and Nickel to come up with a compromise option that we've dubbed option E. Now, option E you can kind of think of it again as a compromise between option A and option B. The ramp is oriented at more of a 45-degree angle, which is as far as it can be rotated without requiring that sheet pile wall that I showed you earlier that would be required for wave attenuation. So this option E would provide an additional 30 feet of space, of navigable space in the entrance to option to Basin 3 compared to option A for a total of 160 feet. Now, this would only be 10 feet higher or 10 feet more than option B. But again, because that angle has been rotated, remember wave attenuation is a little bit higher, so that limits us a little bit in how far that we can rotate that. There are some grading differences that would exist between the pedestrian area there that you can see marked where the turnaround is. But once we get this to the actual engineering aspect, we don't anticipate that that would be a significant enough problem that it couldn't be worked through. But again, this option has been come up with as a compromise between option A and option B. It's really a happy medium that would allow for a lot more navigable space, which is what the public has said that they want to see going into and out of Basin 3. It would also really kind of maintain that good circulation for both parking and traffic that we saw with option A. But it would also provide additional space for navigable waters that we saw with option B. Again, I want to emphasize that all of these options really do meet DBA's minimum criteria for us to apply for the grant. But we felt that it was really important to the community to understand that, we hear them and we want to come up with a workable option that everyone will be happy with, the DBA will be happy with, and that the Coastal Commission will be happy with as well too, so that we can, come into a spot where we can really succeed on this project and get a boat launch built for Moldy, which I know people have been asking for a very long time. So this option would really kind of offer the best of both worlds. I don't think there's any option up here that anyone can show you guys that will be 100% perfect because, we don't live in a perfect world, but this is a really good option that really is a good compromise between A and B. So that brings us here to our recommendation, as you can kind of imply. Our recommendation tonight to you, Harbor Commission, is that you receive and file this report. And then you recommend that City Council direct staff to apply for that boat launch facility grant in February. And as a portion of that application, that they select option E for that grant application. Now, before we get into the actual discussion here, I do want to share with you guys briefly our anticipated timeline for this. I mentioned that February 2026 is our deadline for applying for that grant. Jerry has been here knocking on our door, giving us that friendly reminder that we want to make that deadline as soon as possible. We want to secure a resolution from City Council to apply for that grant. And then once we've submitted our application, we expect that in January of 2027, DBA will start making their final recommendation for the 2026-2027 grant awards to the state of California to be funded as part of the 2027-2028 budget. And then in July of 2027, we're expecting the state of California to officially adopt their budget, which would include that recommendation for boat launch grant awards. And then when we get to fall of 2027, that's when we're anticipating the city will likely start to receive the grant agreement, probably going to be the start of 2028 when it will actually be approved. And then once that grant agreement is received and approved and executed, then the project must be completed within 3 years. So that's kind of the deadline that we're operating on here. So I'm now going to open this up for discussion. Again, I have Jerry here from Moffitt & Nickel to help with answering questions. But other than that, we will pass the floor back to you, Greg.
Thanks, Dave. Well done. I would just add one more thing before the questions and answers start. The subcommittee met on Thursday to discuss all the options. They wanted to hear from the community before they made a recommendation themselves. They were able to actually see option E at that time as well, and they have recommended option E for your review tonight. So staff and the subcommittee are in pair here, but I'll let them speak to the rationale behind what their decision was. But with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. When did option E come about?
It was an idea directly after the community workshop, and it got sussed out late last week.
Okay, that's a lot of information. We'll start with Roger. You're on the committee, so.
Thanks a lot. So I was on the subcommittee. Before that, I was also on the amenities plan. So, I've been working on this recent boat ramp history period a lot. One question on schedule. You just hit the main heads of the schedule. February 2026, we apply. Tonight, hopefully we make a recommendation. After this, it goes to city council for their blessing. So we'll see a discussion at city council sometime in,
Scheduled for November 4th.
okay. And then another question on schedule. When do we start working on detailed design? You know, where the washdown is, where the bathrooms are, is there public input on that?
Sure, Dave, you want to go back to the schedule slide real quick?
Sorry if I missed that.
No, you're good. It's not clarified here, but essentially, once we've established that we're getting the grant award, that's in July of 2027 when we're aware that we're in it. We expect a few months to go by while the state hands us, you know, the fine print of the grant agreement. We return to city council to approve said grant agreement. Once that's in place, the entitlement process for the specific location would begin, which is exactly what you said. It's doing the design, identifying where the boat washdown station is, where the restrooms are going to be, where the open space is going to be, how many trees are on site. There will be a community outreach portion of that, like a workshop that we've done on this process. We want them to be a part of that, process. And we would expect entitlements to probably be done in late 2029. It's about a year and a half to traverse the community outreach, to come to this commission for approvals, to go to the Coastal Commission for their ultimate approval of the design. We then go into an RFP to attract a contractor to take our conceptual entitlement drawings, transfer those into building permit ready drawings, which are a lot more detailed in terms of like how we're constructing this, receive permits, and hopefully start construction in 2030.
Thanks. Okay. During the public presentation a couple weeks ago, you know, I was there, couldn't talk, being on the commission. I didn't want to have a meeting outside of this. One of the questions that came up in that is the possible hours of the ramp. And we weren't sure what they would be then, but do you see any reason they wouldn't potentially be 24/7?
I don't. At the time, it caught me off guard. I wasn't ready to talk about hours of a ramp. It was really about location. So I didn't know the answer then. It doesn't sound like there's any limitations from D-Ball, from Coastal Commission. So really, we can do whatever we want as a city.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Because one of the advantages of this ramp over the hoist is, you know, better hours, earlier hours, later hours. Let's see. We also, another question that came up then was also, you know, potentially discount parking or something. I think that was in Measure C, and we used to have discount parking for use at the launches. So hopefully that's something that would come back in.
Absolutely. We offer that now through a monthly pass that people can purchase. In this case, the boat launch itself, because we're using D-Ball grant money, there is a limit to how much we can charge people to use the boat ramp, which is $13, and that does include parking.
Okay.
So we're capped just because of the funding we're using.
Okay. And then, you know, just for me to yammer for a second, when I was on the amenities plan and we came up with the concept of putting a boat ramp in the middle of the basin, kind of option C, separated from the hand launch by the short pier when the short pier existed, I really liked that, and I was really excited by it. I like that idea less now. What's changed is the short pier is gone. I don't like the idea of putting in a sheer wall, you know, in the middle of that basin where, you know, kids are sailing and where, you know, people are trying to maneuver and stuff. I don't like the cost of that. I also don't like taking away a big chunk of the promenade with a boat ramp. You know, I've been down there a lot looking at the boat ramp. I was down there last night, and I really appreciate how people are just going to that promenade, not having to spend $100 and just looking at the ocean, enjoying the sunset. It's a big section. If if we flip all the way, you don't have to, but there was one picture in your site setting with a view north along that promenade. And I looked around last night. I thought, oh, there's only 2 or 3 people here. And then I really stopped and counted. And when you looked at the rocks and where people were spread out and all the way down to the hand launch and stuff, there were 28 people there just enjoying the hand launch. And that's probably more than we'll use the boat ramp in a day. You know, it's competitive with the number of people, you know, going to a restaurant. You know, 28 people, they get a vote too. I also like the options which preserve the restaurant there. It's a functioning restaurant with a great view. It's bringing in tax dollars. It's helping keep up harbor activity, which we need. West Marine closed. I also like the options which preserve a good pedestrian pathway. You know, I appreciate the boater safety of placing the boat ramp in the right place, but I also worry about the safety of pedestrians on land. And I also worry about the safety of the solo boater who's, doing stuff on a windy day like today, like, I might be. So looking at it all, I appreciate sliding the boat ramp around the corner as much as possible from option C, getting it further back in the corner. I do appreciate how narrow that channel is. I've been there, by boat a couple times, looking at that area. I've been doing this for a year now, so I've gone out in stormy days and said, hey, could I get a boat onto a trailer here by myself? It would be sporty. And every time I've been back in that channel thinking about, what would a trailer look like here? What would a launch ramp look like here? Here comes the Navigante or the El Rey or a dozen paddle boats. And it's like, So at the end of the day, there's no one plan I'm really in love with, but there are options which can make any of them a lot more palatable. That one all the way back in the corner, option A, you can make that more palatable by adding more queuing docks and courtesy docks to it. And I think that makes all of these tight channel ramps better. If you can, get that free floating boat, tied up on a dock, that makes all these options in the channel better. Another nice thing about this option compared to option C out in the middle of the turning basin is now those docks are a little bit more protected. They won't be getting hammered by, storms and swells and stuff. So I appreciate it's a compromise. I appreciate what a small harbor it is. I appreciate that, it's not going to be perfect and nobody's going to be happy completely. So that's, I do, at the end of the day, like option E the best. Thanks for coming up with that.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Could you bring up by the way, I agree with what Roger said, absolutely. There isn't a perfect place for this boat launch, and each one of them are compromises. And I think E, for me, it also is probably the best spot. I also, as we've talked about, extending the queuing dock as much as we can, right? Put as much.
Yeah, that's one thing that we didn't mention in the PowerPoint, but each option does have a queuing dock area, and some of them varied in size. It was just done to show that we could do it. We're gonna try to essentially get the most dock we can when we're going through the design process with DBAW and with Coastal Commission. So when we get to that future actual design, we're gonna try to stretch that out and see how much dock we can get.
Okay, can we go back to the calendar, the final slide there? Yeah, on that, man, I guess there's no real way to accelerate this, but one thing that stands out, fall of 2027 through the winter of 2028, city receives the grant agreement. That's a 1.5-year span, right? A year and a quarter. It is what it is, I guess, huh?
I mean, we could call the state and ask them to hurry up, but that's all it would be. It would be a request.
Well, we could camp out on their lawn, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's, their application is for their fiscal year 27, 28, and they're not going to approve their budget until 27, 28.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's just a slow movement of government, because it would be so great to get an actual boat launch here. Anyway, but yeah, it's a compromise.
Yeah, and it's another 1.5 years of entitlement and getting the Harbor Commission review the entitlements and Coastal Commission review. And so we're probably a good at least 3 years from today of, before we're hiring a contractor.
Yeah, it's a long time. All right, that's all for me.
Great. I echo a lot of what these gentlemen said. I spent some time, I grew up on power boats and using a boat ramp to get into the water. Now kind of a variety, certainly a lot of the pedal boats and paddle boards in the harbor. So my main thing when I was looking at our various options was the width of this channel and option A, and just kind of hanging out in option A did not feel safe, and that was echoed with the public comments that we got a few weeks ago. However, moving back out of that channel towards where you see option E, this did feel, from someone on a small man-powered vessel safe. Ideally, I was kind of looking at solutions that were in this location of E, but if this is at like 4:30 on a clock, was rotated around to 7. So then that became known, oh, you're going to need a sheet pile wall, and that would completely cut off the effective width of that channel. So that was an unfortunate finding. So I appreciate that we were able to come up with something that, allowed us to rotate it as much as possible to get to a wider part of the channel, have something that makes sense on land from a circulation point of view, from a pedestrian point of view, and from just a land utilization point of view of, hanging out in the various areas here, while choosing something that really puts safety of the boaters, the pedal boats, stand-up paddle boards, and then also the approach of the craft going up the ramp is a consideration with where the winds and the ocean hit on the beam. So I like E for all of those reasons. And I think, Greg, you mentioned that the application will actually, regardless of which one we vote on today, would show kind of our go for it maximum amount of queuing docks that we could get. So if we're looking at option E, it would be more, going around the corner. Just for public insight, the discussion of the amenities will be worked out later. So these are very notional that are on here now, or placement of restroom, et cetera. And then I think the preserving the basin turning area for on the water activities versus traffic does open up more available utility of that space to all kinds of craft. So I like not having it for option C in that area for that reason. So thanks.
Thank you. Question. A lot of studies were done about locations, and this option E that seems to be the one to beat was the most recent. And my question is, what about it was a drawback originally that we didn't, why was this so late to come to the table?
In all honesty, we looked at a lot of different options. We just didn't look at an option at this particular angle. In fact, at one of the subcommittee meetings, I think Leslie actually, or Commissioner Grazan actually had a little cutout, and we had it on the screen, and we're trying to rotate it a few ways. And we just didn't think of it, to be honest with you.
We looked at, so I was on the subcommittee, I didn't say that, but we did look at option E, I think it was option 2.5 that rotates it to 6:30 on the clock.
Yeah, our angles were a bit different.
That's when we found out, that's got all the drawbacks of option C with respect to the sheet pile wall, and also potentially how you orient that would prevent you from maintaining that commercial space.
Okay, that's fair. Can you load up the slide that shows option E, please? I am certainly one for boater safety and all those who are on the safety for all those who are on the water, but something we haven't discussed is safety for those on land. I am curious to know there's lots of arrows every which way. I'm curious to know how does a driver of a vehicle get into there and turn around and know which way to go?
We could do appropriate signage and arrows on the ground, but essentially—
What do you think is the natural ingress and egress?
I think if you're coming off a Harbor Drive, which is best showed with the red there, which is mainly meant for pedestrians, but that's where the driveway is. You'd come in, heading west. You would turn south, which is left, on the third drive aisle. That's the third one in blue, to approach the boat launch. Right towards the end, when you get to the pedestrian promenade, you kind of hang a little bit of a left there to access the turnaround circle. The beauty of this is you are crossing a pedestrian path, but you're forward facing, not reversing.
Sure.
And then you utilize the turning circle to get your boat in position to back down the ramp. You essentially get your boat into the water, utilize that queuing dock, tie off the boat to the queuing dock, walk yourself back up the area to your truck, and then directly head north, which is going right by the existing R10 building and finding a place to park. There will be parking spaces that are long enough for trailers, and then you'll get out of your truck and walk back down to the queuing dock to get in your boat and take off. The beauty of this is you're using the two existing long drive aisles that are facing north-south, which provides a long queuing area if we do get a situation where there's a lot of vehicles with trailers waiting their turn. And there's less turns. There's more straightaway here than in option B, where there's a lot more turns. This one, while not perfectly mimicking the approach from option A, does utilize a lot of the queuing area and a lot of the straightaway for said queuing area. So that's how I think it would work.
To be clear, this is the option that I prefer.
Right.
I am asking questions because I want, and I hope that these are questions that others may have that don't have a voice tonight, they're not here for whatever reason.
Understood. Yeah.
And to reassure myself of my decision for option, or my flavor for option E.
Sorry, if I can interrupt. I'm sorry, but to add to that, you can also come down the first aisle, and then this is very similar to the way the hoist works today, which
like the reverse way.
Yeah,
right.
Which ain't great. It's a funny little traffic pattern, especially at the end, but it's something people are used to. So
but it's
we
that
could
general
choose.
circle.
Sure.
We could choose a traffic pattern which matches what we have today, and we can always improve it with paint.
Okay, with that in mind, is there a situation where you'll have two lines coming in?
No.
Okay, you won't have one coming west and one coming south.
Either way, you'll have a big
circle.
oblong circle.
Okay.
Right?
One more question. It looks like it says plus 15, I'm assuming it's 15 feet. Is that what that is, 15 feet? Is that each lane is 15 feet wide?
No, are you talking about the top of the ramp there?
Yeah, where it says
That's the elevation of the top of the ramp. So you've got a 15-foot elevation down to a -7.
Okay, how wide are these lanes?
Good question.
I think they were.
They're approximately 20 feet.
Okay, is that, I don't know, I assume that that's sufficient for a large truck pulling a large boat to make that turn?
Yes, all these options were designed to accommodate, trailable boats that would be, street legal, as well as boats that are ingressing and egressing into Basin 3 that exist there.
Is there like a standard length? It's like you need 50 feet for each lane in the water, and you need 10 feet for this in certain grade. Is there a certain amount of feet that this has to be wide?
I'm going to invite Jerry to come up and get into some of these details, if you can help us out.
Absolutely.
All right, Jerry.
It's in one of the.
Hi, Commissioners. Essentially, I believe you're asking about the length of the ramp itself.
No, the width.
The width.
The width for vehicles that are, you're pulling a boat in. I'm sure we've all seen on the internet the hilarious videos for the people watching, not for people who are actually in the video, of having these, boating calamities where they're pulling in and out of these ramps. Yeah. I want to make sure, I'm curious to know how much leeway there is on either side of the vehicle pulling out. Is it like, you pull into some driveways and there's a wall right there, or is it significant? Is it wider?
Yeah, there's leeway. I mean, Exactly how much is up for a little bit, just, it depends on the width of the boat.
There's no
you know?
standard.
Yeah, but it's basically, it's based on what the largest length of the boat that would typically use it, which is, it's based on the Caltrans standard, which what's the largest vehicle with trailer length that you could possibly get on a road that's acceptable on a California roadway. And that equates to a boat about, 40 to 50 feet in length. So a boat that's 40 to 50 feet in length is only, on the market, they're only such width. That's what the width is based on. The size of a boat, 40 to 50 feet with some leeway on each side.
But if somebody wants to come with some pontoon boat, those are significantly wide. I mean, I'm not much. I do like speed boats and things like that, so I don't know about these big boats, but.
I would point out, if you look at the figure, there's a gray strip that goes down the middle.
Yes.
That was an option also to add in that it's actually a floating dock that would separate the two lanes. So you have a demarcation between you and the lane next to you as well.
Okay, so that isn't a permanent fixture. You're not talking about that gray thing. To me, it looks like a wall. You're not talking about putting a wall in there.
It's a floating dock.
Okay. You still don't want to hit it.
Yeah. Well, it'll have bumpers on it and things like that. But yeah.
Okay. I am adequately satisfied. Lee.
All right, so stay up there, Jerry. I think his question's going to be for you. So I was looking over the demand study, and just to clarify, it looks like, if I read that correctly, you're using only the DMV for your number of boats. Is that correct? Or were you also using Coast Guard registered boats?
Yeah, it was mainly, it was not commercial vessels. It was recreational vessels.
So, I mean, because the recreational vessel can be documented at the Coast Guard as well. In fact, mine is, although you're not putting mine on a trailer that I'm going to launch with any size truck other than a semi.
Yeah, sure.
But, so that gets to my next question. So it looks like your description said when you count boats, it said motorized vessels. Would that include sailboats without auxiliary power?
Yes, I mean, they would use it, yeah.
No, I mean in terms of your counting of boats.
Yeah, it's all boats.
Okay. I was wondering whether you just happened to put it in motorized because it's DMV or, okay, so that.
Even
basically you're assuming for this study that any boat under 40 foot is trailerable.
Exactly.
Okay, which I think is, I just want to make sure we're not underestimating the number of boats. It certainly sounds like in this case, we're probably overestimating. And another question, which might be for you, Dave. When we talk about street legal, there's a couple of different ways of looking at that. The maximum width I can legally tow without any special permits is 8.5 feet, which lots of boats are wider than 8.5 feet. And I was just doing research on this afternoon. It looks like I can get like an annual permit from Caltrans to tow something up to 12 feet wide. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, so which I imagine is probably the size we're looking at here. And so when we're planning for that, we're assuming anything that a reasonable recreational boater would be towing.
Right, and that's what DBA's grant is really intended for this public boat launch, is something to be used by the general public like that, which falls under that criteria.
All right, okay. I just want to make sure that we're not missing a whole bunch of boats here or something, that we're being very conservative in terms of our excess capacity. And I think I worded that right. In terms of what everybody else said, I agree with you. Option E, I was originally looking at option C, which I liked because of the angle. But the sheetrock,
It took me too long. Sheet pile
yes,
wall.
yeah. Anyway, the wall being 15 feet above there was just sort of like, no. And so I really like option here. My concerns with option A were basically the same as everybody else's. I think it's just too narrow. One of the question getting back to sailboats. Sailboats without auxiliary power. I was surprised when I was trying to figure out what's all the criteria for boat ramps. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about wind direction. Did you guys take wind direction into account at all?
Well, wind direction is
in terms of for sailing, not for.
Yeah. I guess it's more predicated on the navigational space available that we were discussing earlier, and I think it's a little bit subjective of how much space a sailboat needs. It's do you tack? Well, you would just need to tack more if someone.
Well, there's a couple of things. So if you're going upwind, I'm going to need to tack up, which is a big concern with especially option A. If I'm coming into the dock, I want to be able to turn, so I'm headed into the wind up next to my queuing dock to stop. And so I need room for that. which I love about option E here, gives me that room. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of, we looked at the sailboats and we're kind of trying to get a 3 times boat length tack distance is what we were trying to aim for.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have to, okay, those are my main concerns. So thank you. Everybody else pretty much covered all my other questions. So thank you.
Okay. So I really appreciate the best combination of benefits versus drawbacks in E. I was very concerned about actually the one that most people seem to like, which was C, because we all call that the turning basin. And indeed, I've used that for 20 years as a turning basin, because you need a place to turn your 40-foot sailboat into the wind. You have to have some space to do that. So I appreciate that this moves. There's not going to be that big wall. It moves it down, but yet leaves enough room, more room than further around the corner, which I was concerned with the human-powered vessels coming and going and mixing with the launching boats. So everybody else has covered what else I had to say. That's it. Thank you.
Jamie.
I do not have too much more to add to what has already been said. A was my biggest concern for the safety and the time of reaction between boaters coming into the water and those on paddle boards or in those pedal boats, which no matter what they tell you, they don't move the way you think they should. So safety was my biggest concern for A. C, I felt wasn't a responsible choice by us because it had the best chance of probably being turned down given the impact on the environment, and we don't have the time, looking at that time frame, we don't have the time to start over. So that was putting me to B, which I understand had a lot of issues with it and concerns from the community. So I think this option E creates the best that we can come up with the space that we have. So I appreciate you guys coming to the table with something alternative in the 11th hour. Thank you.
I have one more comment. I have a little bit of a concern that there was a public meeting about this. People from the public came and discussed. I remember the exact numbers, there were 60-some people there or something like that. And all of those people may have felt that they got their voices heard. And now we're throwing a new option at them that they weren't able to weigh in on.
Sure. I mean, a good comment.
I certainly don't want to waste a month.
Well, what I would say to that
spend a
is
month.
the option E is based on the feedback that we got from them now. And tonight's meeting is another opportunity for the public to participate.
Sure, but they think they already have, so they may not be here because of that. But, okay, and then one more question. Is there a significant cost difference between E and any of the others that we were considering?
I think the biggest cost difference is between C and any of the other options. He might be able to get into more specifics, but I think A, B, and E are all relatively in the same ballpark.
Okay.
B had the longest ramp because of the elevation change. That one was probably the most expensive of the 3 remaining.
Sure.
E is probably next, and then A would be the least expensive.
Okay, I asked because I don't want them to come back and say this is too expensive. There's other cheaper options.
But I think they're all in the same ballpark.
Okay. Open up to public comment. We'll start off with anybody on Zoom, but
Yes, we have Kelly Martin on Zoom.
are there lots of people on Zoom?
Just one.
Just Kelly. Okay, Kelly.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. It doesn't look like there's been many wind studies done. And my concern is that it looks like the boat ramp now is facing right into the wind. And the actual queuing ramp is more like a 45-degree angle or a beam. And I'm thinking about those sailboats that need to come around and they need to tack and then queue into the boat ramp. My concern is that egress out is probably a really good plan, but going back in, they're going to be propelled by the wind. And so I worry a little bit about safety, and so I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, nobody else, any comments?
No e-comments.
Right. Open up to those of you who braved coming in tonight.
All right, guys. My name's Jake. I currently own the Glass Bottom Boat, Redondo Boat Rentals. I also manage Pedalport, which encompasses the pedal boats, kayaks, and paddleboard rentals. And I previously owned Redondo Beach Sport Fishing. So I've been very much involved in the commercial side of this basin. So thank you guys for all the hard work you've done. I know it's been a very long process. Just main concerns I'm having, obviously traffic has been the #1 concern. I found it ironic when they said moles A and B didn't work because of traffic into the main channel, yet mole D into the most narrow, congested channel was good. But I do think option E is much better than A and B, so thank you for that. The concern I keep hearing people voice for option C is that pedestrian traffic, which I do understand that is there, but option E has us crossing the most congested pedestrian traffic in that area. That is the main funnel from the parking lot into the International Boardwalk, which serves all the businesses and the restaurants down there. So their boats will literally be trailering and crossing the most pedestrian trafficked area in that parking lot, as far as I'm concerned. And a question I have about the amenities plan is there still a plan to rebuild the small sport fishing pier? Is that in the plan?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so if that's in the plan, I do appreciate your concerns about the turning basin space. The small pier was there forever, and I don't think it was ever an issue at that time. I previously worked on there. So my thought with option C, I think it's a great option, would be to make it possible in the future to dual utilize the retaining wall, the sheet wall, to encompass that into the new pier whenever it's built. I know that's bringing a whole different headache there, but if I think, if that was able to go to Coastal Commission and we're doing less impact to the environment by dual utilizing that, it could be a very prime opportunity to consider option C, as I do think the traffic is still a great concern with option E. Sorry, I'm just going off the fly here. So yeah, my main concerns: pedestrian traffic, option E. That's going to push you right into the heaviest congested area. I really think option C is the best bet long term. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners, staff. Mark Hansen, King Harbor Boater, and a proud member, along with a couple of you, of the Harbor Amenities Working Group. So in 1999, our King Harbor Boaters Advisory Panel first made our public recommendations for a boat ramp with access to the turning basin. So this milestone feels absolutely great. Thank you to waterfront staff, Moffett Nickel and SWA, and our commissioners for leading us to this point. I sent you all some notes today, most of which are just going to reinforce the way it already looks like you're going. But just to kind of put the nail in the coffin of option A, some things not caught in the administrative plan are that the fairway exit from that is upwind. Sailboats without auxiliary power would be required to tack back and forth. So when he talked about lanes was kind of nonsense. The breakwater creates wind shadowed and wind swirling areas that are hard to sail through. The fairway silts in, creating a risk of going aground. Small centerboard boats do not have auxiliary power and must sail in and out of the docks. The beam reach exit to the south of both A and B is a sailboat's fastest point of sail, and higher performance sailboats do not even have the ability to fully depower their sails. These sailboats would be surging into each other, sitting at the dock, waiting from egress to A and B. So let's put A to bed. On option C, one positive that was talked about was that it could be coordinated with a hand launch to share bathrooms, wash down, and boat supplies and bait. So I just want to give it credit for that one. You've heard the downsides that the Youth Foundation routinely trains there, and lots of the bigger boats drop their sails there. Unfortunately, at option C, those queuing docks are on a beam reach, which again is hard for sailboats without auxiliary power to try to use. Finally, some notes on option E. The big, positive, wonderful part of that is rotating the angle of that dock from the west to the southwest with those west exits. Beam reach, fastest point of sail. Of course, you're coming out there full speed ahead right across all the other traffic by simply moving it that 45 degrees to the southwest. That's your most controllable, safe way to just come out on a nice close hauled exit. So I just love that about that. Also, a small thing, but the angle partially into the wind will reduce the overhangs of booms over the walking docks. I deal with that at my club all the time. I'm trying to walk down the dock, all the booms are in front of me, I have to move them away to get in. And finally, when returning to any of the ramp option sailboats with auxiliary power will need to use the courtesy queuing docks. Option E provides the most amount of queuing dock space. So I'm on board with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, guys, listeners, everybody. My name is Mike Jimenez. My partner is Jacob Moreno. We own Redondo Beach Sport Fishing, Navigante, El Rey, the bait company. And first of all and foremost, we want to say thank you for what you guys are doing. Boat ramp. We've been in this marina, been going on 6 years now. I know we've heard a lot of talks about the boat ramp, all this good stuff. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to be very good for that marina. My only concern, like most of these guys or my partners here said, it's traffic. Main thing. We have the Navigante, we got the El Rey. I think El Rey and the Navigante probably go back and forth Friday, Saturday, Sunday, probably 40, 50 times daily. Traffic, it's our main concern. I saw this mode E. I think it's a lot better. Just throwing my 2 cents. I've launched boats, I think anywhere from up north to Newport, Dana Point. One thing that matters, I did notice the launching ramps is only one straight shot. Trying to maneuver a trailer, a 40-foot boat, pretty hard. Backing up, another thing. And I think just, again, traffic is gonna be an issue, but we got that option E. I just don't see it. We got the El Rey, we got the Navigante, we got the pedal boats, we got the kayakers, and swimmers sometimes. That'd be a little iffy, but we'll deal with it. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. And if you ever guys want to do an event or something on the El Rey, let us know. It's on us, little Christmas party. It's on us. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So first, going with your recommendations here. Is there a motion to receive and file the report?
So motioned to receive and file.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, so does anybody care to make a motion to recommend one?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council that they adopt option E.
Second.
All in favor of option E?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Who wants to do it? Greg, will you do it? Do you do it? Will you recommend, how does this?
So yeah, what will happen, and we need one more recommendation, and that's to apply for the grant as well. When we get to that, what we'll do is we'll incorporate your recommendation into the staff report. So where there was a section for staff that we had our recommendation, we'll have a section for the Harbor Commission, talk about what your concerns were, what the topics were, and ultimately what you decided on. So that'll be part of the city council agenda report.
Okay, thank you. And then now for applying for the grant. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to apply to the Department of Boaters and Waterways for the grant to build the boat ramp.
Very well worded, thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries.
All right.
You have a location.
We have location.
Well, we have
I'd like
a
to
recommendation for location.
make a fourth motion.
Sure.
You said you would carry our concerns to city council and there's, future design and so forth. My proposed motion is that, we still recognize that this is in a very tight area. We still have traffic concerns both for pedestrians and boats. This isn't perfect. And we want to mitigate that as much as possible in the design phase. Make sure we have a good path for pedestrians and cars. Make sure we have as much queuing dock as possible. Make sure we have a harbor patrol presence, to mitigate things in the water. Consider potentially moving some of the small craft out of that basin if that somehow became possible, if there were more docks. I'm kind of going on at length, but I basically want to say, let's let council know that we still have concerns here, which we hope we can mitigate during the design phase.
Absolutely. We'll include that.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'll second that motion, yeah.
That's great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Good, well done, that was good. Okay, excellent. Moving on, items from staff, section M, items from staff, the liaisons report.
Oh, yeah, I have a brief one for you. I expected more public. I expected that to take a little bit longer. But we have some good news items, all good news. The seagrass grope out pens are being installed as of last week and should be completed this week. Installed. Fish delivery is scheduled for early to mid-November, and we're going to do a ribbon cutting ceremony once the fish have been delivered. We'd like to celebrate with fish in the water. That date is a little squirrely, but we're working with our consultant to make sure that we're planning ahead. So generally reserve your calendars for mid-November, more information to come, but we'll do a ribbon cutting ceremony for the sea bass grow out pens. And then we've got some new grants coming. In addition to the grant that we're seeking for the boat launch, just this past October 7th, the city council accepted 2 agreements on grants that we've been awarded. One is a $1.4 million grant to make improvements to our Basin 3 docks and infrastructure and gangways. We're going to try to stretch that money as far as we can go, and I'm sure it'll go quick. But we plan to do a lot of utility upgrades, a lot of the dock infrastructure upgrades. A second grant that we got into an agreement with was with the Coastal Commission. It was for $500,000, and we are going to be updating our sea level rise assessment for King Harbor that was last done in 2019, and we'll be including all the coastal zones in the city in that study, which was not included in the 2019. That's a requirement that's been mandated by the state that all cities do this for the coastal zones. So here we are abiding by that and actually updating the King Harbor version as well. A really cool, important aspect of this grant that it'll cover is it's going to do a general LCP cleanup for us. If you're unfamiliar with our LCP, it's really hard to navigate is probably the best way, most polite way to say it. But essentially, much like the municipal code, over time, text amendments take place. And what's typical practice is the author of the approved text amendment then goes in and actually makes the changes to the living document. That never really happened with the LCP, and we had a series of text amendments that were just essentially stapled on top of one another. So you have to go through the whole entirety to make sure that whatever you're doing coincides with the LCP. This is going to be doing one massive cleanup, one big red line version for all of them all at the same time. Coastal Commission staff who help us and have to navigate this process are extremely happy.
And we got a grant for that?
We got a grant for that, $500,000.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah. And then we haven't got the city council approval yet, but we do have the agreement in hand, and it's going forward November 4th, Catherine, is we got another replenishment for the SAVE grant, the Surrendered and Abandoned Vessels Exchange Program. We got $35,000 about a year and a half ago. We used it all up. We got rid of about 9-ish vessels, mainly in Basin 3. Vessels that had been surrendered, mainly people who didn't want them anymore. But we essentially got another $50,000 for that program so we can keep it going. We're going to open it up not only to Basin 3, but to some of our neighboring Basin 1 and 2 marinas, and I'm sure it'll go quick. We were hoping to get a lot more, but with the state budget cuts, their actual total sum went down considerably. So where we kind of proved ourselves last year with the minimal $35,000, I think we were ramping up for quite a big award, but given the budget cuts, we got $50,000, which is better than last time and will certainly help. And that pretty much concludes with my updates. Obviously, this topic with the boat launch will go forward to City Council on November 4th. You can tune into that to see how that goes. Our next scheduled Harbor Commission meeting is scheduled for November 10th. I don't really have anything lined up for you. I checked in with our Community Development Department, who also has public hearing type items that come before you, like CUPs and design reviews. They don't have anything. This team's really going to be gearing up for that November 4th City Council meeting. So given we don't have anything, you could decide to cancel it tonight. We could reconvene in December, have one last meeting before the holiday break and break from there. But I'll leave that up to you guys to consider. If you want to meet, we absolutely can. I'll provide an in-depth liaison report that goes over a lot of our projects if you want to do that. But it's up to you.
A question on that, Greg.
Yeah.
I was reading over the city council agenda for tomorrow. I noticed one thing on there is an update to the city code in regards to commissions. And if I understood that correctly, one thing that allows it to do is to actually allow staff to cancel a commission if there's no meeting, if there's no business.
Correct.
Will that take, when will that take? Because it's a second reading tomorrow, which I think is the final.
So typically,
Yeah.
I'll have to confirm this, but typically you go first reading,
Yeah.
second reading, which is tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
you have to wait 30 days before it becomes enacted. I can confirm that.
Okay.
But if we want to do this, I think we follow the typical protocol for now, and then moving forward, I think I have the ability to do that.
Does anybody have any thoughts on the matter?
I mean, is there any chance we're going to need something in November
Not on our current slate.
or? Okay.
This is something that has to be decided now.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
All right, I'll make a motion that we cancel the November meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That was easy enough. Okay, is that all, sir?
That's it from me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Commission member items and future commission agenda topics. Does anybody have anything they want to add to any December topic? Yes.
I'll go. Yeah. Since this was short and we're canceling the next meeting, I'll ask a couple questions. Sorry.
Yeah.
First, congratulations. The first thing I want to say is thanks for all the work on the boat ramp stuff. And, thanks for putting in the extra work to come up with option E and all the time you've put in on this. Really appreciate it. Thanks. You mentioned getting SAVE grant. I would potentially say maybe we should emphasize the Port Royal area if they're going to be getting new docks. I've seen marinas get new docks before, and they end up having to have a whole chunk of empty docks so that they can move boats around and repair things chunk by chunk.
Right.
I don't know when their funding gets done. I don't know when that happens, but maybe it helps them if
Sure.
they get some help from the SAVE grant.
Absolutely. And food for thought. I think their idea, and this will get reviewed when they're going through their own entitlement process for the project, but they will envision some temporary docks that get located somewhere so that they can move boats out systematically, demo, rebuild, and then just kind of keep going.
That makes
way.
sense. Okay. Any update on breakwall repairs?
Oh, yes. Do you remember? I'm blanking. You got it. Oh. There you go, you got it.
Okay. Yes, I spoke with the Army Corps end of last week. They're still finalizing the schedule with their preferred contractor. They don't have the agreement in place. So they don't know the schedule for a fact yet, and they're thinking of maybe waiting and starting in March after the winter storm season. But it's not final yet, so.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks. Any update on construction or road closures or any, public work stuff going on in the area next couple months?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Any update on the educational facility?
Not anything I can disclose yet.
Copy that. Let's see, any update on leases and new stuff going in, going on?
We are drafting an RFP for the Fun Factory right now. We plan to bring that back to closed session so City Council can take a look at that draft. But obviously, that's a humongous fill, if you will. It's 30,000 square feet. It's absolutely our largest vacancy, and filling it with anybody would result in a significant rental increase. But getting that choice vendor is really important.
Yeah. So that we're finally done with the engineering and building and, cement repairs in there?
No, it's not done yet, but it's on schedule.
Okay.
So, but we're trying to make it so that we've got the RFP lined up and negotiation and, try to narrow how much gap space there is, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. And finally, 2 comments from me. I've been on a holiday boat parade commission. And this year, we're trying to do something different. We're trying to make it throughout the harbor and emphasize the south end of the harbor, not just the north end of the harbor, which means having a lot more boats in the parade, not just, 2 boats going around in a small circle. But hopefully the south end of the harbor, that promenade area I was talking about will get activated, and there'll be a lot more activity down there in the big parking lot and a lot more stuff to see and do. It should be cool. And then the last thing, maybe you guys remember a couple months ago, we had the county come and talk to us about beach replenishment in Veterans Park. And I said, hey, instead of spending $27 million of my tax dollars to get sand from, God knows where with a boat that comes from Louisiana, and doing a big 200,000 cubic foot project every 20 years, I think it'd be better to do a small project with local sand and do little maintenance stuff every year. They were kind enough to set up a meeting kind of just for me. And so, I attended this with some staff members, and the presentation was basically on what went wrong with the Marina Del Rey dredging and, where the silt and trash came from. And it became very clear that instead of looking for sand and just trying to replenish the beach, this is me saying this, I'm biased. It became clear that what's going on is Marina Del Rey is going to get dredged again, and they'd like to put the sand on Vets Park. But this time they're not going to dump trash. So I kind of felt baited and switched. And, you guys who were there can speak up and, tell everybody I'm being a jerk. But it was a very different flavor than what I got in the room when they were here. So I'm going to keep working on that. They sent me some information on beach width measurements. When I get time, next rainy day, which is tomorrow, I'm going to sit down and look at some old dredged material management team meetings from the Army Corps, and also the meetings we had, which are on YouTube, and find some of the quotes and data that I recall about what happened back then and try to come up with some better comments. I do want that beach preserved. A lot of people go there. I go there. There's good access to it. There's good parking. Buses go to it. So, I don't want to see that beach wash in the ocean. But, even then, by the end of the meeting, the county people were talking about, taking sediment from Marina Del Rey and putting it on our beach, which kind of annoys me, because if we had, great large grain sand, relatively clean, and the beach needed sand, I wish we'd put our own sand on our own beach. So anyway, that's just something going on out there. I don't know if it'll come back here. I'm sure it will someday when there's permitting and stuff, but it's just something going on the wings. So thanks for the time. Thanks for listening to me rant about the county. And thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of key, I think. I think I have one thing. On the educational facility, Brian Campbell talked to me about the Placer AI, right?
Yeah.
In his license, and I'm wondering whether we can use that somehow to figure out, but you're also we have an educational facility center subcommittee, but are we reconvening that at some point?
Not planned. We can reconvene once we have a negotiation party. We do have someone in mind that we're in negotiations with to fill that spot. We just haven't reached an agreement at this point. We've gone to closed session a few times to discuss it. Devil's in the details with these agreements, right? So once we have someone in place and there's a logical next step to have a subcommittee meeting to discuss what type of development actually is going to occur with this group, we can reconvene. But to be honest, I think it's a ways out.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Congratulations on these grants.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To the team. It's
a lot of work, and that's some great stuff, especially the LCP stuff. And that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Just going to echo that. Great job bringing in all those dollars for grants. That's amazing. And thanks to Muffin Nichols and the team and all the, boat ramp work that we've been working on. It's obviously not an easy compromise no matter which way you go. So appreciate that. And then I was just going to add the Boat Harbor Parade, Christmas Parade is December 13th. So the weekend after our next meeting.
Yes, thank you. Job well done on it's nice to see these things moving.
Yeah.
And to the public that showed up here and showed up at the last meeting and online, thank you for your involvement. It's really nice to have people from the public come and partake in this and give us their opinions. It is unfortunate that we can't all agree on everything, but know that we do hear you and we value your opinions. And it's just, we have to go with, based on the information we have to sort of go for, there's no A+, we have to go for like the B, we just certainly don't want to go for those C's and D's, no unintended with a C, but anyways. So yeah, just thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it. Please come to others.
Nothing.
I just want to make sure I understand what Roger said. So you went and met with the county again with some staff. And basically what it came down to was all that they talked about all those places, they were going to get all that clean sand. They really just want to dredge Marina Del Rey and bring that here.
So when we get into discussion in this section of the meeting, if we go too long, we start having a meeting on a topic, and I've been cautioned on that.
I just want to make sure I understood that's what you said.
To clarify, it seemed like a second entirely new discussion. It seemed like that, replenishment project that the county had come forward with, and, we were picked amongst others. It seemed like an entirely new project, and it was just like, hey, we're here to discuss dredging Marina Del Rey. What happened to the beach replenishment thing with the dunes and the landscaping and the seagrass? No, we're dredging Marina Del Rey and you're getting the sand or the sediment.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
That's what I thought you said. I just wanted to check. Thank you.
I'm only on this for one more year, so carry on the fight.
Thank you. And yay for the money. Great job.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Just thank you to all the work that you guys did. Thank you to the public that participated both at the previous discussions and then here tonight. It's really good to hear concerns, especially those of you business owners. We understand, we get it. I think we're all on the same page of wanting safety for everybody. So it will continue to be heard as these plans move forward, and congrats on the grants. And thanks for an easy first meeting.
Anytime.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See you all in December. Thank you again for coming, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have we ever had someone oppose the